So, what's up, SRL fans, and finally, welcome back to the SRL GT3 URL International Championship for the season finale today here at Zolder in Belgium with a 1.2-hour race. I'm your host here in the booth today, Sandro, and yeah, let's hope for an exciting race. We got a fight for the championship on our hands. It's all about Nick van Gelder versus Jensen Randall. Brandt still has a long shot at the championship today, but ultimately it's probably going to be between Nick van Gelder and Jensen Randall to win this championship. Only 1 point separating the two of them after the 4 rounds we've had. It's been quite a break since the last race, summer break, but here we are today for the final race, and I couldn't be more excited to see what we're going to have on track today. Got only 6 drivers on the grid, unfortunately. Obviously, some vacations playing a factor in this, but we're going quality over quantity, and we're definitely going to have a great race. So race format will be a 10-minute practice session, followed by a 10-minute qualifying session, and after that we will have our 1.2-hour race. That means 1 hour and 15 minutes of racing. So definitely excited for this race. We're just waiting and getting ready just to start the lobby right now, and here we go. Zolder, in case some of you guys don't know, because I think most of our viewers are Formula 1 fans. Zolder is a racetrack in Belgium. I used to host some F1 races as well back in the day, in the 70s and 80s. Nowadays it is most of the time just used for GT racing, just like we're doing today with the GT3 cars on track, and DTM. The German Touring Car Championship is also racing at the Zolder circuit, a very traditional circuit. Overtaking is a thing here. It's very difficult, and we'll be interested to see if drivers maybe get frustrated after some time and force overtakes that could ultimately lead to some incidents. First few drivers leaving the pit lane now for this must be the practice session. And we're gonna go through the starting field in a minute, so I can present to you guys who the drivers are that we got on track here today. So, we're gonna start off with our championship leader, Nick van Gelder, who's currently still sitting in the pits. Nick van Gelder in the Audi. He won the most recent race at Indianapolis. No, that was round 3. He won round 3 at Indianapolis in a stunning battle against Jensen Randall on the last lap. I think it was. It's been quite a while since we had the last race in this championship. But Nick van Gelder is leading the championship with 29 points, and he has a 1-point gap only ahead of Jensen Randall in the BMW. Jensen Randall has shown to be probably the quickest driver in this championship, but he's been struggling with consistency. He has great, amazing pace, but gets himself caught up in incidents, which often are his own fault. So he has to keep his nose clean today in order to fight Nick van Gelder for this championship. Third in the championship would be Dion Stahl, only 1 point behind Jensen Randall, so only 2 points behind Nick van Gelder, our leader. Unfortunately, Dion Stahl was not able to make it here today, so we're not having a three-way battle for the title. It's only going to be a two-way battle for the title. But that's okay. It's still two very competitive drivers and a very close fight for the championship. Max Mulder, teammate of Nick van Gelder. He made a debut midway through the season and has shown to be a very solid driver. He scored quite a few points already and is currently sitting on... I think it was 6 points, I believe. So yeah, Max Mulder lining up with Nick van Gelder at the Audi team. Next up is Rhys March, who would be teammate to Dion Stahl. Rhys March has impressed me quite a lot this season. He has been caught up in unfortunate incidents, like for example at the 2.4 hours of Spa, but he's shown some good pace. I'll be interested to see what he can do today. He's sitting 7th in the championship. Brandt in the Lamborghini. He's been very unlucky through the last few races, and that's why he only has an outside shot at the championship. He is currently sitting on 21 points, 8 points behind Nick van Gelder. He won the season opener, the 1.2 hours of Bathurst, a few months ago. Very, very impressive, but ever since he's been struggling with luck, basically. Like, for example, having to pit right before rain shower, or disconnecting as he just runs wide here. It's practice, so this is not a big issue. But yeah, Brandt probably just hoping to get another win and end the season on a high. And last but not least, it's Yannick Verpeeten in the single Ferrari on the grid here today. Yannick Verpeeten has missed about half the season, and he is currently sitting 10th in the point standings. Interesting to see what he can do here today. So currently top of the leaderboard is Brandt with 34.0 as he's currently entering the pits on the left hand side. But I expect this lap to get shattered by Jensen Randall, who's just coming to the line right now. He did not improve. Nick van Gelder and Max Mulder, wanted to say that, but now it's only Nick van Gelder who hasn't set a lap time yet. Max Mulder just set his first lap time of the session, as we see Rhys March's McLaren back there in the gravel. This is a very, very tricky track. Drivers haven't raced in this series since June, so as we see Rhys March going for another slide. So drivers might be a bit rusty, that's why it's good to have a practice session ahead of qualifying here. Max Mulder, one of two Dutch drivers here on the grid today. Yannick Verpeeten is the local hero here today. As a Belgian, this is his home track basically, and Zolder, also a Belgian track. So home soil advantage for the Belgian. Let's see if he can capitalize on that, as we got about 2.5 minutes left in the session. He's making his way through the tricky chicane. Drivers in practice before this race here today have noticed that it's very tricky to get through that chicane with those big curbs. If you take too much of the curb, you can easily get a snap of oversteer and take your car for a spin, so drivers have to watch out for that. As Yannick Verpeeten just dipped the left-hand side tires into the grass there on the exit of the long left-hander. As Jensen Randall has cut down the gap to Semi Brandt to 4/10 of a second. As we're gonna hop on board with him. As he runs wide into the hairpin. Very dusty out there. He has to watch out now as his tires are probably dirty. Coming into the final chicane. And he definitely got enough time for another lap here, as we are now with 1 minute to go in this practice session. Runs very wide, you could see he had to fight that understeer. Didn't got the apex in, and that definitely cost him a lot of time, so I don't expect this lap to be better than his previous one. So it's very likely that we're gonna see Sandro Brandt topping this session. As he takes his BMW for a spin. This is what I mentioned earlier. He took too much of that inside curb there in the chicane, and that has taken him into the grass and around. It's only practice, so this is exactly what practice is for drivers to find the limit. Checking flag is waving. Drivers are only completing their laps now. Nick van Gelder makes his way to the line. Let's see, is he improving his lap time? No, he didn't. Yes, he did actually. Gaps have come down quite a lot, with Sandro Brandt topping the session, only 31 thousandths of a second ahead of Jensen Randall and Nick van Gelder. Then it's Max Mulder, Rhys March and Yannick Verpeeten at the back of the grid for the practice session. And this is the 10-minute qualifying session, so this will be very interesting, especially on this track, because as I said earlier, Zolder is a track that's very difficult to overtake on, so that makes qualifying even more important. Unlike in the SRL League F1 League, which is actually starting in about a month again, so stay tuned for that. Season 6 is about to get underway in 4 weeks on F1 2020. Unlike the F1 league in SRL, there's no point for pole position, so drivers won't be able to get an extra point here in this session, but there will be a possible extra point for drivers in the race for the fastest lap. So this is something to look out for, especially with this close of a championship, with Nick van Gelder and Jensen Randall only being separated by one single point. Talking about Nick van Gelder is currently making his way out of the pits. Nick van Gelder has put in a lot of practice this week. He really wants to wrap up this championship. That would be his second SRL League championship. He won SRL League Season 4 in the Formula 1 series, and yeah, it would really mean a lot to him to win this championship. He's very passionate about his sim racing, and he really wants to get it done today. He missed out on F1 qualifying in real life earlier just to get some practice laps in, and that just shows the dedication that this man has. But it will be a tough task to beat Jensen Randall, who has shown and proven over and over again that his natural pace on this game is probably the best out of anyone in this series. He's just lacking the consistency. Nick van Gelder is coming out of the final corner to start his flying lap. We're definitely gonna jump on board with him to see what the Dutchman can do. Fights the understeer through turn 1, very tricky corner, gets to the exit. Now this very tricky long right-hander. You're constantly fighting the understeer, and now you need a good exit through this high-speed kink. It's flat, but watch out for the exit curb. They can easily drag you out wide and put you into the grass. Bit of braking into another right, and you can use a bit of that exit curb, but the gravel is very close to the track. Now full speed into this very tricky chicane. Don't take too much of the curb on the left-hand side. Very nicely done by Nick van Gelder. Back on the straight again, over the hill. Flat out through this kink and into the next chicane. Use a bit of the outside curb for the braking. Left, right, left. And then a bit of lifting through here. And then this long right-hander. Easily flatten these cars as well. Over another little hill. Elevation change is very nice on this track. Hard braking for the hairpin. That's probably the best overtaking opportunity on this track. Full speed through the two kings. Jensen Randall, the first one to set lap time 1 minute 33.7. Let's see if Nick van Gelder can beat this. Last chicane, hard braking. Curb's a bit flatter in this corner. You still don't want to take too much of it. You need a good exit to carry all the momentum onto the front straight, and let's see what van Gelder can do. Second, 39 thousandths only slower than Jensen Randall. Great competition. Gonna pick up Samuel Brandt. As he's making his way through the final chicane, and he's gonna come over the line, and let's see where the Dane will put his Lamborghini in. Third place, 1.4 seconds off Jensen. We know Samuel Brandt can do better than that. There must have been a small mistake on that lap. Only driver to not set a lap time yet is Yannick Verpeeten, who made his way into the pits, so he must have had an off possibly on his fast lap and just pitted for probably a new set of tires and some more fuel. as Max Mulder surprisingly just set the second fastest lap time, 27 thousandths off Jansen Randall. This is a surprise. I did not expect Max Mulder to be up there. So Max Mulder ahead of Nick van Gelder, his teammate. And look at the gaps between the top three. 39 thousandths covering the first three drivers. This is great competition. As Jansen Randall just spun his BMW coming out of the chicane. Nick van Gelder, can he answer? Down the hill, into the triple chicane. Nicely taken, no understeer. That Audi i8 seems to handle very nicely. The Audi R8 is a very aerodynamical car. It's built better for this track than the BMW. The BMW's biggest strength is the straight line speed, and Zolder doesn't have many very long straights, unlike for example at Fuji or Indianapolis and our previous races. So this is definitely an advantage for Nick van Gelder here today. Let's see, can he improve his lap time? Come out of the final corner now. Nick van Gelder goes provisional pole, and what a lap it has been. 33.3, that's 3/10 clear of Jansen Randall. Very nice lap by the Dutchman. So I expect an improvement by Samuel Brandt. 1.8 seconds isn't a gap that you expect from the Dane, so he's definitely going to improve. If you can get a lap together, we are under 2 minutes to go in this session. Samuel Brandt starting his flying lap right now. Oh, that was... Yannick Verpeten was in the way there for Samuel Brandt. I don't know if Brandt was on his flying lap. If he was, this is dramatic. This is probably going to end up in a post-race penalty then as well for Yannick Verpeten. He definitely got in the way for Samuel Brandt. I really hope that Samuel Brandt was on a warm-up lap. Jansen Randall, can he answer to Nick van Gelder's 1 minute 33.3? Definitely not on this lap. He just ran wide, outbraked himself into the very tricky hairpin corner. He definitely got time for another lap. 44 seconds to go in the session. Coming out of the final corner, and this will be Jansen Randall's lap. Let's hop on board into the car. Just listen to this amazing engine sound by this BMW. Oh, Jansen very wide there into the gravel, and this is going to cost him all his momentum on the straight. You could just see him fighting the understeer through there, and that's the big disadvantage of this BMW. You see Nick van Gelder into the grass on the right hand side. That should not distract Jansen Randall, as we could see him going very hard over the curbs. Don't think he's going to improve on this lap. It definitely cost a lot of time there, dipping the left-sided tires into the gravel. Very wide again. So this has been not the best laps for Jansen Randall. I don't expect him to beat Nick van Gelder's lap for pole position. And wide again. Yeah, this is gonna be done. And Jensen Randall quit to the pits. So last driver on track currently is Yannick Verstappen, but his Ferrari is definitely damaged. And this is gonna be pole position for Nick van Gelder. So a bit of surprise. I definitely expected Jensen Randall to be on pole for this race, as he's been so many times before this season already. But it's gonna be Nick van Gelder on pole position ahead of his championship rival Jensen Randall. So the two rivals in row one. That's gonna be interesting. Max Mulder, Nick van Gelder's teammate, in third place. Then it's Brandt, Rhys March, and Yannick Verstappen. And Jensen Randall is lining up in fourth place, so there must have been a 3-place grid penalty somewhere, or a 2-place grid penalty, excuse me, that we didn't know of. This is crucial. So he must have probably sped into the pits or crossed the pit lane exit line. Wow, okay, so Jensen Randall drops from 2nd to 4th on the grid with a 2-place grid penalty. This is crucial because Zolder is a very, very tricky track to overtake, and if Jensen Randall gets stuck in traffic behind Max Mulder and Samuel Brandt, Nick van Gelder can drive away in the front. I don't know how it's going to look between Max Mulder and Nick van Gelder on the race start, if Max Mulder is going to attack his teammate Nick van Gelder, or if he's going to play the nice teammate and let his teammate fight for the championship and let him win this race. This is going to be interesting. This is a factor I did not expect would happen. I didn't see that Jensen Randall picked up a grid place penalty, but it seems like he did. So we're currently sitting on the grid. Drivers just making some final changes to their setups, and we're gonna get going for 1 hour and 15 minutes of racing here soon. And here we go for the warm-up lap. So we've seen some crazy race starts so far this season. Coming to my mind is Indianapolis, for example, when Nick van Gelder went from last to first before the first corner. Will we see another amazing start here today? Possibly by Jensen Randall. That would be clutch for him. Jensen Randall, first of all, has to look out to not make a mistake here and ruin his race on lap 1. We've seen this so many times before this season. Bathurst, Spa, Indianapolis, all these races where Jensen Randall took pole position, looked set to just ran away with the race and then binned it on lap 1 or got caught up in some kind of incident. He definitely needs to sort that out today in order to take this championship away from Nick van Gelder, who still has that 1 point lead in the point standings. So it's an Audi 1-2, then a Lamborghini, then a BMW, and then the McLaren of Rhys March and the Ferrari of Yannick Verstappen. So Nick van Gelder is the control car. He's allowed to start this race, coming through the final corner now. And the final race of the season at Zolder is green, and what a great start it has been for the two Audis. They have built a huge gap already to Sandro Brandt in third place. Max Mulder runs a little bit wide there. And everybody is separated quite a lot, so I think the two Audis have caught everybody by surprise, gassing it very, very early on, coming through the final complex. Very, very well managed by both of them. And everybody is very separate. This has definitely been the calmest start of a race we've seen so far this season. And this is definitely played into the hands of Nick van Gelder, because SRL did not get the opportunity to make up some positions here on the race start. He's closing the gap to Sandro Brandt though. As he missed the chicane, runs wide, and here comes Rhys March. So here is the mistake of SRL I was talking about earlier. Rhys March around the outside. And now we got the inside for the chicane. He lets SRL in though. Interesting. He probably doesn't want to fight against a championship contender and possibly ruin their races. So fair play to March. But SRL definitely lost a chunk of time there to Sandro Brandt, and is already 3 seconds behind his championship rival Nick van Gelder, who got his rear view mirror full of his teammate Max Mulder. As we're going to complete lap 1. It's gonna be very interesting to see if Max Mulder tries to attack his teammate, or if he's gonna stick back because of the championship. Sandro Brandt now very close to Max Mulder. On board with Brandt, who runs a little bit wide there into the gravel, and if you're in the gravel once, it's very difficult to get out of it again, and that definitely cost Brandt a chunk of time. As you can see, there's a bit of a gap now between himself and Max Mulder for second place, as the drivers hop over the curbs. Yannick Verpetend has lost a chunk of time. He already got some damage to the front of his Ferrari, so he must have fared enough. He's about 12 seconds behind this pack of cars. Only looks like some aerodynamic damage, so hopefully no suspension damage there for the Belgium. But he's definitely understeering everywhere now, so he's probably gonna make a trip into the pits, as Rhys March has lost a chunk of time. So March possibly heading off somewhere. We unfortunately did not catch that. So we got two drivers there that have dropped back now from this, from the front runners. As we can see, Max Mulder still right behind his teammate van Gelder. Van Gelder had a very, very bad entry into this corner. You could hear him understeer wide a little bit there. Max Mulder right in the slipstream of his teammate. I definitely feel like Mulder is currently the quicker of the two Audis. I just don't know if he doesn't want to overtake Van Gelder, or if he just can't find an opportunity. Ooh, very, very wide there from Mulder. He dipped his right inside tires into the grass there. To be careful with that, the car gets squirrely very, very easily if you do that too often. Brandt ahead of SRL. So it's two battles we're currently watching. It's the battle for the lead between the two teammates, Van Gelder and Mulder, and it's a battle for third between Brandt and Randall. On a very, very nice exit there from Max Mulder coming out of the final corner. We saw Sandro Brandt having a bit of oversteer on the exit of the final corner. This is helping Randall to close the gap down again. Samuel Brandt again very wide there on the exit of turn 1, and now Randall tries it around the outside in turn 2. Tries the undercut, but can't make it work. As Rhys March is making his way into the pits. Yeah, we can see on the left hand side he got some damage there to his McLaren, so not the day, not the final race of the season that Rhys March has hoped for. And this is going to be an early pit stop, and it's possibly going to drop him a lap down already. And Jensen Randall has lost a bit of time there. The gap between himself and Brandt has opened up a bit. We're quickly gonna check on the strategies these drivers are taking today. You can see on the right hand side the telemetry, and there you can see the amount of fuel there is in the car. So Nick van Gelder is running 109 liters, the exact same as his teammate Max Mulder, so same strategy for the two Audis. Samuel Brandt about the same as well. And Jensen Randall is running a bit more fuel, so he's probably gonna go a bit longer. There's gonna be one stop in this race, so expect Jensen Randall to go a bit further into the race with his first pit stop. And Yannick Verpeeten running a bit less than Jensen Randall, but he's far away. He's probably out of the conversation for the win here today. As Jensen Randall just made his way past Samuel Brandt, unfortunately we missed that. So must have been a move into turn 2. And Jensen Randall loses it. BMW is BMW. Samuel Brandt takes avoiding action, but Jensen Randall goes around. Can he get his car started again? Jensen Randall has got going. This is the lap car of Rhys March. So Jensen Randall hasn't lost too much in case of positions, but he's lost a chunk of time. You could see the rear of his BMW just snapping on the exit. Very, 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 very lucky that Samuel Brandt took avoiding action. Great reaction time by the Dane. If he would have hit Jensen Randall there, the championship would have been over. But this has definitely put Jensen Randall on the back foot now. He's 12 seconds away of Nick van Gelder. Jensen Randall has to finish ahead of Nick van Gelder in order to win this championship. The two Audis now have built a gap of 7 seconds to Samuel Brandt in 3rd place. So this is going perfectly well for Nick van Gelder. He can lose the lead here. It's not that important. He just needs to finish ahead of Jensen Randall. That's the most important thing. We talked about it earlier, didn't we? Jensen Randall and his inconsistency, his mistakes that have been following throughout all season. Yet he has shown some brilliance, some great, amazing pace, some great comebacks, but he's shooting himself in the foot over and over again with these mistakes that he did. Like, for example, Rhys March just did the exact same thing that Jensen Randall did 1 lap ago on the exit of turn 3. He dropped it. He's off in the gravel. I don't think he hit the wall there. But that's just more damage to this car. It's been his 2nd off of the day. He's currently already a lap down. So this is definitely not the race that March has hoped for here in the season finale at Zolder. Mulder is currently looking like the fastest driver on track, but he's staying behind his teammate. Runs a bit wide there into turn 1 though. You can see him using all the road on the left hand side to get a good entry into the first corner. And Samuel Brandt has just dropped out of the session. Sam Brandt was running third. We're down to 5 runners in this race. So Sam Brandt once again has disconnected. This happened to him at Spa-Francorchamps as well, in the 2.4 hours of Spa. And Sam Brandt is out of this race. This is unfortunate, but Sam Brandt has been struggling with internet issues throughout the whole season here in Project Cars 2 in the SRL URL GT3 International Championship. So more of the same story, I think so. And the Dane is out of this race. So very unfortunate. He, as I said earlier, he's been very unlucky this season. He's shown some great pace and got an amazing win at Bathurst in the first round of the season, when he won by about 50 seconds to the next car in second place. But ever since, he's been very unlucky and it's just been caught up in incidents and, for example, disconnected at Spa and here today again. And this is an unfortunate end to the season for Sam Brandt. As we see Jensen Randall running wide there into the hairpin. He's not having great pace at the moment. He's dropped down a bit even since his spin, so maybe he has overheated his tires. We don't know that. Unfortunately, we can't look into the car. He's still got over an hour to close the 13-second gap to Van Gelder. But this has definitely not been the optimal start to the race for the Brit. Picking up the leaders again, Van Gelder and Max Mulder, the Audi duo. Penalties. There are some penalties for the Audi drivers. You can see that on the right hand side. So Van Gelder has picked up a 5-second time penalty and 1-second time penalty for Max Mulder, who is very close to his teammate now. So and Van Gelder lets Max Mulder by. He gives it the inside and gives it a bump because Max Mulder slowed in the middle of the hairpin. So the whole let your teammate win the championship thing, we can throw that out of the window. This is pure racing for the win. And this might have caused some damage to the front end of the Audi from Van Gelder. That was a solid hit. But to come back to the point that we talked before, a 5-second time penalty for Van Gelder can be super costly. He is 11 seconds ahead of Jensen Randall. We know Jensen Randall has great pace. If Jensen Randall is just 5 seconds behind Van Gelder and Van Gelder gets this 5-second penalty added to his time at the end of the race, this could easily lose him the championship. This whole fiasco between Van Gelder and Mulder has cost them 2 seconds as well to Jensen Randall, who is driving very lonely at the moment. Also shout out to Rhys March, who unfortunately is driving at the back of the field at the moment, who had those 2 incidents early on. He is currently quicker than the leaders even. His last lap was 37.0 compared to the leaders 37.7. Yannick Verstappen in the Ferrari. So behind the 2 leaders, the field is very spread out. There's an 11-second gap between Max Mulder and Jensen Randall. Then there's another 40-second gap between Jensen Randall and Yannick Verstappen. And then there's a 1-minute gap between Verstappen and Rhys March. So it's all about the battle for the lead at the moment. With Max Mulder obviously seeming to don't really care about the championship fight between Van Gelder, his teammate, and Randall, and he's going full attack against Jensen Randall, against his teammate Nick Van Gelder. So we got a request by Sammy Brandt, who wants to join us here up in the booth, so we can get him for an interview, and he's gonna stay in the booth here for the rest of this season finale, as we just got by the 1 hour to go mark, and we're gonna get him up here in the booth. So hang on a minute for me. Max Mulder just had a big moment at the exit of the final corner. He just lost the rear end of his Audi R8 and had a big snap of oversteer. Luckily caught it, as we are now on lap 11. Nick Van Gelder has led all the way, apart from one corner, when Max Mulder for a very, very short amount of time took the lead of the race. We got Samuel Brandt now here in the booth. Samuel, very, very unfortunate end to your SRL URL GT3 International Championship season, but unfortunately this is just that just has shown that this has just been the same thing throughout all season long for you, like very, very unlucky at times, and this is, I think, your second disconnect of the season alongside with Spa.
Yeah, but the thing is, this wasn't a disconnect, so...
It wasn't a disconnect. What happened?
The problem was that I didn't, for the setup, I didn't realize I took a qualifying setup from Spa-Francorchamps when we did that, and the radiator was pretty much closed on that setup. I didn't realize that, so my brakes started overheating and then my engine just broke down. Until it pretty much fell apart.
We're gonna come back to you in a minute, as we're just having a development here with Nick Van Gelder making a very, very early pit stop, already on lap 11. We still got an hour to go, so we saw him carrying a lot of fuel. So this is interesting. Maybe
he's taking his drive-through penalty at the moment.
So Nick Van Gelder has a drive-through. Nice that we can't see it on any graphics here up in the booth.
Yeah.
So
no, he. The thing is, unfortunately, with this game, when you are the car in pole position, and if you exceed the required speed before the start-finish line, you will get a drive-through. And Nick didn't know that, so that is what has happened here. So that's why he has a drive-through.
So it was a jump start. I was very surprised by his start. I mean, he gassed it very, very early on. So
yeah.
A jump start and a drive-through penalty for Nick Van Gelder. This is very, very big deal, as he's dropped behind Jensen Randall, his championship rival now. And if it would finish like this, Jensen Randall would win this championship.
Yeah, that is true. That is actually true.
And we have to remember that Nick Van Gelder still has a 5-second time penalty as well, which is going to be added at the end of this race. So
the thing that he can say that is the good thing about this is that we have seen that the BMW is very thirsty when it comes to fuel consumption, and compared to the Audi, I think the Audi is going to have the legs on that front. So but I don't know what the plan is now for Nick. I don't know what the plan is for Jensen, but definitely I would imagine that Nick is just trying to push past Jensen again before the scheduled pit stop comes around. That's what I would imagine he's trying to do.
Yeah, Jensen Randall is expected to go a bit long in this race, as he is running about 15 liters more fuel than the two Audis in the front. So it's going to be interesting to see. Coming back to you, Samuel. So an engine failure ultimately was that ended your season.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, pretty much.
Apart from your win at Bathurst, this has been a very unfortunate season with many incidents. What would you take away from this season?
The main positives I think I would take away is that I have shown that when things are going right, as you said, with Bathurst and pretty much also Spa up until the disconnect,
Yeah.
is that I have the pace to be a championship contender pretty much. So for that, I will say that next season, of course, we all learn from this season. It was a new thing, so we all had to learn throughout the season. With a bit more experience, I think, obviously on how to manage fuel, how to drive the car, how to make setups, and overall how to treat the car as a unit on the track. I think it's going to be a lot more easier, but obviously the others out on track as well, they have that experience as well at the moment. So, but it's going to make it more interesting, as Nick he's close big time up to Jensen here.
Yeah, Nick van Gelder definitely seems to be the more pacey driver at the moment. We've seen Jensen Reynolds struggle a bit. This might be down to Jensen Reynolds carrying more fuel, having a heavier car, and the BMW not being suited for this track. We've mentioned it earlier that the BMW is very, very fast in the straight line, but is struggling through the corners. So this is definitely playing in handy for Nick van Gelder now, who has definitely closed down the gap. So we got a battle on track between the two championship rivals. As Jensen has just run wide, and this is going to be an easy pass for van Gelder, who's now back up into second place.
Yeah, just coming back to the fuel. Oh, is Jensen mounting an attack?
He's sticking back.
He's staying back. But the interesting thing is that there's almost 10 litres in difference from the two cars, but it tells me that Jensen's fuel level is not going down rapidly. Meanwhile, Nick it seems like he's pushing more. Maybe Jensen has put his car down into a medium mixture in terms of how the fuel consumption is going to be.
This is a very interesting move, because this should be an easy one-stop strategy, in my books at least. So maybe he's trying to go very, very late and very, very deep into this race. As we can see, the sun is coming down, so the big part of this race will be driven in the dark. This is going to be another factor, as track temperatures will come down here.
Yeah, that's true. But yeah, we're coming up to the halfway stage, and like there's still over 20 minutes until the halfway stage, I think it is. So they're gonna have to carry on for a lot more longer, unless they are doing a surprise strategy. We obviously don't know. So that's gonna be interesting.
So Jensen Reynolds is not dropping back, he is staying with Nick van Gelder. And while all of this is going on, Max Mulder is in the race lead after his teammate Van Gelder had to take the drive-through penalty for his jump start. To be fair, Nick van Gelder and Jensen Reynolds are currently definitely closing the gap down to him. They have been about a second quicker throughout the last 2 laps, so this is going to be interesting to see. Nick van Gelder does not need this win. He just needs to finish ahead of Jensen Reynolds. This is what he needs to do to win this championship, which means so much to him, and Jensen Reynolds needs to finish ahead of Nick van Gelder.
Exactly. The thing is also, in this position that they're fighting over, which is second and third, obviously that second gives you 8 points, whilst third gives you 6 points, so there's a 2-point difference. So as you mentioned earlier, if Jensen was to overtake Nick at some point, he would be in the net championship lead at that moment. So, but I don't. Obviously, I don't want to jinx it. But if they do drop down to like the lower positions, it is going to get a lot more interesting, because the points difference in between fourth and fifth is only 1 point. So that would make it a lot more interesting, in fact.
And something we definitely have to look out for as well is the point for the fastest lap, which is 1 extra point as well. So this could be a big part here at the end of this race.
That is true. And as it stands right now, the fastest lap, obviously of the title contenders, actually belongs to, I think it is Jensen, yeah? So at the moment, I think they're... Oh, I'm not sure, but they could be equal on points, if I'm not mistaken. No, that's
Yes, but not how they're running at the moment.
no, that's true. That's true.
So, as of now, Nick van Gelder would still win the championship by a point. But
Yeah,
if they go through the finish line, over the finish line, with this gap, Nick van Gelder is gonna drop behind Jensen Renner because of this 5-second penalty that he picked up earlier.
yeah, that's true. So he really needs to lose Jensen at some point during the race.
Exactly.
The interesting thing is that it seems like Jensen has turned up his engine again, because he's now down to 89 liters of fuel whilst Nick is on 81. So it seems like in order for, as you say, Jensen not to drop behind Nick, he's having to run that BMW in a very high fuel mixture, but that is going to cost him because it is very high on fuel consumption. So that's going to be interesting towards the closing part of the race, for sure.
It's also the crossover point now when the sun is coming down, so this is going to be very interesting. Cars usually handle differently in the dark as the temperatures are coming down, so this might play a factor. Should play into the cards of Nick van Gelder, as the Audi is more aerodynamic and should be better throughout the corners, and Zolder is a very aerodynamic track with not too many long straights.
Yeah, that's true. But yeah, also it's not only the cars that like change throughout when you go through a day-night cycle. Obviously, the drivers also have to adapt to maybe a little bit of a different track, because, as you say, track temperatures drop. Maybe you have to brake a little bit earlier, maybe a little bit later, actually.
Oh, Jensen Renner took his BMW for a spin. This is the second spin of the race, and this is coming in handy for Nick van Gelder.
How far did he drop behind Nick there?
It's 7 seconds at the moment.
Ooh, that really helped Nick.
So another spin for Jensen Renner. We talked about it earlier. Jensen Renner being very inconsistent so far this season, now
again.
hot tires.
Yeah.
And make some rear contact, reversing the car as well. So this is big in the championship.
That's not going to help him at all, because no doubt he is a pacey driver. He's really fast. We've seen that throughout the whole season, but, as you say, and I think he even mentioned it himself at one point, if he spun at Zolder, he would have spun at every single race throughout this season. He's spun at every race that has been this season. So it could be down to that BMW just not being aerodynamic and sticking to the ground, because it is a brick, pretty much like the Bentleys, which we also used to have here. So it's not sticking to the ground, that's for sure, for him. But he is a very pacey driver when it does work for him.
And this is now these two spins. Obviously, the first spin just running wide, and the second spin was due to overheated tires. Those two spins have cost Jensen Renner 16 seconds to Nick van Gelder.
Yeah. Yeah, it is very unfortunate for Jensen, but well, if he can keep it clean, and obviously there's still a lot of pressure on Nick because he can't afford any more penalties. He already has a 5-second penalty. He can't afford much more, because that's going to put pressure on his shoulders instead.
We saw it earlier where Jensen Renner had his first spin. I think it was early on in the race, as we just saw Yannick Verpeeten a lap down, re-entering the track. You had to take avoiding action. It was a very close call there with Jensen Renner, which could have been championship over for him. How close actually was that? It looked very spectacular on screen.
The thing is, when you're sitting in the car, it isn't too spectacular. The main thing that is the, what should we call it, the unknown factor is, because I can't see what he's doing with the steering wheel, because obviously he's going to register that he is oversteering coming out of the corner or applying throttle too early. If he counter steers too fast and too aggressively, he's going to spin the other way. So that is probably the unknown factor in a spin like that, which you saw with Jensen and where I had to take avoiding action. But the thing is, once he started spinning to my right, there was no question which way he was going to go. He couldn't correct it, so I knew I had to drive into the gravel, but it wasn't too spectacular, to be honest.
A very close call that could have ended much worse.
Definitely could.
well played by both drivers. Looking at the gaps at the moment, Nathan Gelder was closing down the gap to Max Mulder, but on the last lap, Max Mulder regained 2 seconds of his lead. So the two Audis seem to be quite similar on pace, as they've been all race long.
Yeah, that's true. Nick might also just be, you know, easing off a little bit, conserving a little bit of fuel, conserving his tires. He knows that he can't afford any spins. The pressure at the moment is on Jensen because he is behind by a...
Jensen has spun again.
Oh,
the exit of the chicane once again.
That BMW does not seem to stick to the ground.
Well, now with three spins before, he's probably also on a lot of tire wear on his rear tires. So this is definitely not helping. I would suggest him to pit soon and maybe get a fresh set of tires and push to the end.
Yeah, that's true. And the thing is also, if he boxed for soft at the moment, they could go longer than those sets that he has on at the moment, because, as we discussed earlier, the track is cooler at the moment. I don't know if it's still dropping, it might not be, but he's going to continue onwards. He thinks that he can keep this going.
This is definitely cost him a lot of time.
To be fair to him, he has quite a lot of fuel left.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's gambling on a surprise spin for Nick or something, like the tires dropping off. Because if we take a look at Nick, his right side of tires is getting quite cold actually. I don't know why, to be honest. It's kind of a mystery because, well, it is a it is a clockwise track, so, but yeah, I don't know. He seems like he's nursing his tires at the moment, not taking any risks.
He got a sizable gap on his championship rival Randall, though. It's has gone up to almost half a minute.
Seems like Jensen is he slowing down? He might have got a corner cut penalty warning there.
Yeah, through the chicane, a slowdown possibly.
Oh, he's coming up to a lap car. Is that's Yannick without a front bumper?
Yeah, that's Yannick Verpeten, who's been struggling all day with the grip on his Ferrari.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting for next season, though. Are any of these drivers, because, well, it is the last race of the season, are any of these drivers going to swap teams or swap cars? That's going to be the interesting thing, I think. Because, yeah, Jensen has been fast, but he has had a car that has proven to be troublesome. He's fast in a straight line, but it seems like it's quite of a dog in the corners. Which is a bit of a shame, to be honest.
Yeah, it's very specific for different kind of tracks. Like we saw at Fuji, the BMW was dominant with Alexei Koivuniemi, Jensen Randall's teammate, who unfortunately is not here today on the grid, took the win. But on tracks like Zolder, this BMW is definitely not built for this track.
But also, if you take a look, I think the characteristics of the BMW are exposed brilliantly when we raced at Mount Panorama in Australia, because that track has a bit of both. It has quite the long straights in the first and the third sector, mainly, but then the mountain itself, the climb and the descent, is very narrow and very tricky, and, well, that is where Jensen made the mistakes. He was too aggressive on the throttle, and the BMW does not like that, it seems.
Especially on colder tires, as we've seen so many times on the first lap of the race, where Jensen Randall has made a mistake and has taken his car for a spin.
But the interesting thing is that the tires in this series is actually preheated, so they are in working temperatures when the race is starting. That is only in qualifying and practice when the tires are not preheated. But yeah, I don't really know. Maybe it's because he's trying to, I don't know if he's trying to win everything on lap 1 or something and gambling too much, but yeah, it's been a theme pretty much for Jensen throughout the whole season that he he's fast, but he's also been very, what should we say?
Inconsistent.
Unlucky. Yeah, inconsistent.
Picking up Yannick Verpeten, the local hero. He just made another pit stop for repairs. He lost another 2 laps, but he definitely got a new bumper on his Ferrari. He's multiple laps down, but as we've seen so many times before in the series, just finishing the race could easily give you a good result, as we've already seen one retirement with Sammy Brandt obviously here in the booth with an engine failure. So anything could happen anytime, so this is nice that we can see Yannick Verpeten carrying on this race.
And it is going to get him some points anyway, so he's going to gain some points on the drivers that did...
Oh, he just brushed the wall, very close.
Yeah, as I said, he's going to gain some points on the drivers that did not take part in the race today. And the same goes for Rhys March, even though I have to give it to Rhys. He's been doing pretty well today, in my opinion.
Yeah, apart from the spin, I think he hit the wall earlier. He's been very, very quick so far, and earlier he was on pace with the 2 leaders, Max Mulder and Nick van Gelder, so he's been very impressive today.
And the thing is, he's not too far behind when it comes to fastest lap. His fastest lap is a 1:36.3. Out of the top 3, obviously Max is actually the slowest one. It's a 35.6. So, to be honest, Rhys is not that far off.
Rhys March has been impressive, especially the most impressive race I've seen from him so far was at Fuji a few weeks back, when he was actually behind the lead group all race within about 3 seconds. I think ultimately, I think he had to retire with a disconnect because he ran out of time, but he's been surprising me a lot this season so far, and he can definitely build on that for the next season.
Definitely. I will say this, that these cars are, some of them are quite tricky to drive, and I think the McLaren, even though it is a aerodynamically very good car, much like the Audi, I think it comes with some problems. It's not as fast in a straight line as some of the other drivers, such as Jensen. His BMW, as we said many times, it flies down the straight.
Yeah.
And the same goes for the Bentleys. I mean, if they're within like 5/10, you're gonna get overtaken, pretty much.
Obviously, we are missing the 2 Bentleys here on the grid today with Jeremy Pope and Rob Small missing this race here today, unfortunately. They've had quite the, shall I say, disappointing season. I expected quite a lot from Rob Small, but he seems to struggle in these cars. He was definitely a much more dangerous force in the IMSA Championship, which we had early on in the year.
Yeah, it seems like he has had some trouble to get used to the Bentley, not being so good in the corners, but well, again, I'm going to say it's going to be interesting to see if any of these drivers are going to swap cars for next season. I wouldn't imagine Nick is going to do that. He's been fairly happy with his Audi at all times. Most of the mistakes that has come over his car is pretty much related to how he treats the car and how he plays the game overall, especially with the pit stops. They can be very tricky if you don't know how to execute them properly.
Exactly.
So, but it will be interesting. I could see someone like Rhys, for example, maybe leaving McLaren. I don't know where he would go, but maybe. I'm not sure. Difficult to say.
In the meantime, the gap between the 2 leaders, Nick van Gelder and Max Mulder, has closed down to 13 seconds. It was 20 seconds about 7 laps ago. So the 2 teammates are definitely getting closer again, with Nick van Gelder actually setting his fastest lap of the race and the fastest lap overall on the last lap. So Nick van Gelder is pushing his Audi very hard right now.
He's not conserving anything at the moment. To be fair to him, his fuel load is going to carry him all the way to the next pit stop. So he's not going to have any trouble there. And as for Max, I think it's the same for Max as well. Obviously, he's three leaders behind his teammate on fuel, but is not going to be a problem because I think we have crossed the half distance mark.
Yeah.
Well, we have, but.
And I'm pretty sure closing down the gap is one thing, but then overtaking is another, and I don't expect Nick van Gelder. Nick van Gelder is a very tactical and clever driver. I don't expect him to try a daring move to get this race win. He's thinking about the championship right now.
But it is going to be interesting, as you say, because we have to remember it's the same car. So the only difference is going to be the slipstream and the driver, of course, because the car is going to be, well, 100% alike. So, but almost 10 seconds now. And it would make it interesting if Max won here, because I think that means we have had a different different winning driver at every race. But
That's true. I'm
not sure on that. Who won wasn't it Nick who won in
Indianapolis, yeah.
Yeah. Or was that Dion?
No, it was Nick. Nick with that amazing last lap pass against Dion Stahl. Obviously, the first race of the season was won by you at Bathurst. And then
Jensen won in Spa.
At Spa, exactly. And round 3 at Fuji was won by Alexei Koivuniemi. And if Max Mulder wins today, that indeed means that every single race this season has been won by a different driver. So that just proves how close this competition is in this series.
Definitely. It's going to be very close next season, I think. Because I'm not going to toot my own horn, but I hope I'm going to be a championship contender. Max seems like he's going to be a championship contender. Nick, well, we don't need to talk about him. He's in the championship lead at the moment as it stands now. And Jensen, well, if he can lay off with the spins, he could be a championship contender as well.
Exactly.
And obviously, if any of the other guys all of a sudden finds massive pace or swap cars for something that they prefer, someone like Rob or Jeremy, I could imagine could be quite fast in the right car.
And we haven't even talked about Dion Stahl yet, who's been very, very impressive so far this season. He has been challenging 4 wins all season long. He's currently sitting third in the championship, only 2 points behind Van Gelder. Unfortunately, he could not be here today, and he's definitely going to be gutted about that, not being able to fight for a championship. But Dion Stahl is always also a threat in these cars.
Definitely. And we saw it in the LMP2 series that, you know, he won the last 2 races, or was it? Yeah, the last 2 races he won, like, with a big margin even. He blitzed the field, and he's come very close, especially, well, obviously, the closest he ever came in GT3 was at Indianapolis, but that wasn't to be. And then he finished second at... Didn't he finish second at Bathurst and Spa as well?
I think so. I remember him being in the fight for a win in the earlier stage at Spa as well. I think he got 2nd place. That's quite realistic, yeah. And
I'm not sure, but I think he might have got... Either he finished 3rd or then he finished 2nd in Bathurst. So, I should say, up there with the fast guys.
Yeah, he definitely finished 2nd at Bathurst. He had that amazing comeback drive when he had to start from the back on the grid.
Ah, yeah. Okay, yeah. Then he's had 3 2nd places throughout this season, so that's pretty decent, I would say.
Nick van Gelder consistently running 34s now, so he's pushing very, very hard. I don't even think it's Max Mulder being slow, it's just Nick van Gelder being in a class of his own right now, and his championship rival Jensen Reynolds seems to struggle. He just lost 6 seconds on the last lap compared to Nick van Gelder.
I mean, Nick's fastest lap at the moment, what is that? That is a 34.8. That is only 1 second off the pole position qualifying time, isn't it?
Yeah, and this is on worn tires on a colder track as well, with more fuel
as well, yeah. And also, like, this is impressive. I think this is going to be interesting. Obviously, he wants to finish the season on a high. That would be really nice, but you know, I think Max is going to fight.
Yeah, we saw it earlier on when Max made the move on Nick van Gelder, and then there was contact between the 2 teammates, so that was interesting. As Nick is pushing extremely hard, he just dipped his right-hand side tires into the grass on the exit of that high-speed corner, so he has to watch out a bit, but he's pushing extremely hard right now.
Like, he has a 42-second gap to Jensen at the moment.
And you can already see the lights of the car in front, Max Mulder. He's on a mission right now.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on here with Nick.
And he's definitely found massive pace at the beginning of the race. He seemed to be the slower one of the two Audis, basically a bit even holding up Max Mulder. Currently, he's 3 seconds quicker than his teammate per lap.
Also, if we take a look at the tires as well, Nick's tires are green, meaning that obviously they're going to be in perfect temperature. Max has a little bit less temperature in the front right. So that is interesting. It seems like Nick is able to keep the heat in the tires a lot better than Max. Ooh, that's a slide from Max there through the first chicane.
Max Mulder just came past the lap car of Yannick Verpeten.
That is not a way to gain time from Nick. He just jumped the second part of the chicane. Really pushing, I should say.
Yeah, last lap was another fastest lap of the race with a 34.803.
He's really going at it right now. 6 seconds at the moment. Obviously, with that mistake from Nick, it would mean that, you know, gap.
He lost a little bit of time again.
Yeah, exactly. I think he made a slight mistake in the chicanes, so it's not the most optimal way, but I mean, he's closing him down again. Yeah, it's down to just around 6 seconds now.
He might not be far away from his one and only pit stop of the race, and maybe that's why he's now pushing very, very hard to just. He knows he's gonna get rid of those tires soon as he runs very wide on the curb on the exit of turn 1. So he might just hammer it down right now, as he knows he's gonna get rid of these tires very soon.
That's the thing. But also, I mean, he knows what he needs to do. He needs to close up to Max because there is a mandatory pit stop, and none of them have been in and swapped tires. So that is he just needs to close down his teammate and then pass him, and then he's in the net lead.
Just imagine how big the gap would have been if Nick van Gelder wouldn't have jumped the start and have gotten his driver penalty. He would be out in front by about, I think, 20 seconds possibly. So this is a great performance by the Dutchman.
It's very, it's very opposite of what we usually see in Formula 1. In Formula 1, he is usually the one that has to stop first because he's using his tires quite a lot. But here it seems like he's the one that has preserved his tires and is able to use the worn set of tires in the best way possible.
Exactly. He seems to be very, very conservative with his tires in these GT3 cars. Yeah, Nick van Gelder going for his second SRL Championship alongside his Season 4 F1 Championship. This means a lot to him.
It does also mean that he's going to become the first driver in SRL to win multiple championships. Exactly.
Obviously, it's across a series, but still, that's a very impressive stat that has never been done before in SRL.
That's true. And also the thing is that we have obviously the Indy 500 and stuff like that. I don't think Nick has he won the Indy 500 before.
He's come very close in Season 1, but no, he's never won the SRL Indy 500.
But this is the interesting thing that, like, if we count the Indy 500 victory as a championship, quote unquote, I mean, I know it's not a championship, but if we call it a championship, it still means that the same driver has never won 2 championships, even cross series, like across multiple series.
Yeah.
So it's going to be the first time for SRL that we're going to have a double world championship dished out to one driver.
That would be a very, very impressive stat, but for that he still needs to get the job done. We got 25 minutes left in this race, still a lot of time for things to happen. He just needs to keep his head down and finish this one, as Max Mulder had a big slide coming into the final corner.
Yeah, that's going to help Nick massively. I just really hope that Max actually knows that he has to box, and that all of these guys actually know they have to box. Because at the moment, Yannick and Rhys are the only two drivers that have been in the pits.
That's been for damage too.
But they still have made a pit stop, and that has put their mandatory pit stop out of the way. Like, they have cleared their mandatory pit stop. If Max, Nick and Jensen forgets to... I don't want to say this, but if they forget, they're gonna get disqualified, because there is a mandatory pit stop.
I don't think they will forget. I think they have pretty...
But that is a thought you can play with a little bit if you want to, if you really want to make it interesting. But obviously, as you say, Yannick is in the pits again.
Nick van Gelder's pace has dropped down a little bit. He seems to be more on pace with Max Mulder at the moment. They are currently setting 36, 1 minute 36.2 for Nick van Gelder on the last lap. He got a 53-second gap on his championship rival Jensen Reynolds, so that's definitely enough.
Well, yeah, he just needed a plus 5 second gap to his to Jensen. So I would call it job done at the moment if it finishes like this. Max is still going. We only have around 20 minutes left. This is interesting. Max is stretching it really long, and so is Jensen and Nick.
Yeah, Max, they all got plenty of fuel left, so Max got 41 liters left, and same for Nick with 43 liters. I think they could even go to the end, but obviously you need that mandatory pit stop.
But the thing is, they can go to the end with fuel, but they can just come in for a tire swap.
Exactly, yeah, the tires are key.
Change tires, and you can see Max is using his headlights to let Rhys know, please let me go. So
yeah, this is gonna put Rhys March 3 laps down.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Yes. When Max overtakes Rhys, he's gonna put him 3 laps down. The interesting thing is, even though they both have dropped off in pace, well, Max has actually picked up the pace, but Nick has dropped a little bit in pace. He's still around 6:10 faster than Max per lap, or on the previous lap. Actually.
Yeah, so. Nick's charge has stalled out quite a bit, but saying quite a bit means still 6/10 per lap, as before he was closing down the gap by 2 seconds a lap. So.
And Rhys lets Max pass without any trouble. So.
Yeah, very.
Oh, there's a bit of a slide again.
Yeah, he seems to struggle quite a lot with rear tire grip in the braking zone there for the final corner.
I can tell you that these chicanes, they're not easy to do correctly. That is something that is very difficult, actually. So, I mean, you can say that, oh well, they're sliding quite a lot, but it is very difficult. The chicanes are tricky, and I think they're doing a really good job.
Yeah, in general, Zolder is a very, very tricky circuit. We've seen it in real life every single time there's a GT3 race. Drivers going off and, generally crashes at this track, because this is a very, very tricky track. But yeah, shout out to the drivers today. Apart from, the spins, there haven't been major accidents, so very, very clean race so far.
The only real accident that was in qualifying between myself and Yannick.
Yeah, actually what happened there was that on your quick lap?
I started that quick lap and Yannick was coming around. He finished the lap and he tried to get out of the way, but as we all know, with aerodynamical cars, once you get behind another car, you lose grip, and I didn't realize how much grip I lost, so I understeered straight into the back of the Ferrari. So that it was pretty much my mistake only. So Nick is still closing down his teammate ever so slightly.
He lost about a 10th last lap, but he gained 4 tenths on the previous lap.
Yeah.
He's now within 3 seconds of his teammate, as Max has lost a chunk of time. He's pitting.
He's pitting, so...
So Mulder is the first first one of the frontrunners to make his pit stop.
That is interesting. What is Jensen going to do? Is he going to come in as well?
I expect Jensen to carry on a bit. So Mulder in the pits. This is handing the lead over to his teammate Van Gelder.
And I wonder if there's going to be any damage to fix. If he's going to... he has topped up a little bit of fuel. So he isn't sure he could go to the end.
There might be some rear aerodynamic damage for him, as he has made some contact early on with Nick van Gelder in the race.
Could be, could be. Now where is Jensen? He's still coming around the hairpin, so he's not going to overtake Max. It's going to be a 1-2 for Audi. How many times have you heard that in WEC? Pretty much.
Yeah, back in the good old LMP1 days.
Especially back then. But it's interesting what Nick is going to do now. Is he going to push and then try and undercut him?
Overcut, yeah.
Sorry.
Mulder just exited the pits ahead of Jensen Randall, who's just making his pit stop, so I definitely expect Nick van Gelder to come in probably next lap. I imagine that the tire advantage on fresh tires is quite big, so I would be surprised if Van Gelder stays out longer.
Yeah, he comes in now as well, so... But the crucial thing could be, does he need to repair some damage? Does he need to tank extra fuel, or does he just need a tire change?
Because he might need some repairs at the front of his car. Earlier there was quite a lot of contact, like a big hit for both Van Gelder and Max Mulder, so it's gonna be interesting to see.
And well, this is just scenes. Jensen Randall is just getting the Nico Rosberg 2014 treatment here, almost getting lapped by his title contender. So
yeah, this championship is basically wrapped up with 70 minutes to go.
Yeah.
Nick van Gelder got a bit of fuel in, about 15 liters.
It's not as much as Max. Oh,
yeah.
Look at this. Ooh. So Max is coming through the final corner now. Nick is almost at the pit exit. Ooh, this is gonna be close.
Mulder flicking his lights as he's coming over the start-finish line. Which Audi will be in front? Van Gelder exiting the pits.
Where is Nick? There he is. I can see his headlights.
This is gonna be close, and Van Gelder just comes out ahead. Wow.
So he has strategy overcut.
He made the overcut and took less fuel than Max Mulder, and this is put Van Gelder into the race lead. He gained about 4 seconds by doing this, so very good job.
But an interesting thing, look at Max's tires. Look at that front right. That is... I would classify that as cold. That is not a warm tire.
Yeah, Mulder definitely seems to be struggling with tire temperatures.
It doesn't seem like it's just him on that front right, because Jensen seems to have some problems as well. Rhys, that is a blue tire. Yannick is the only one that seems to have some heat in that tire.
Rhys might be running a harder compound.
Let's have a look. What he's running. No, he's running softs as well.
Interesting.
So everyone is running softs. Nick needs to take advantage of these fresh tires because they are preheated. And he needs to gap his teammate now by 5 seconds. And then he's going to take home a victory. But yeah, as you say, championship is pretty much over at this point. Yeah,
those... what were it? Like 4 spins in a row there for Jensen Randall put the nail in the coffin.
Yeah, and look at that. Max Mulder, out of that traction zone, pretty much lost half a second alone. In the traction zone coming out. Oh, there goes
very
Max.
wide onto the curb and into the grass. Oh, he caught it.
Oh dear.
Yeah, if you get stuck on that outside curb, which is very high, it's very difficult to get off it again.
Yeah, very difficult. That's going to play into Nick's favor. He's almost up to 3 seconds now, the gap. With 15 minutes to go.
Yeah, this is Nick's race to lose. He has to bring it home now at this point.
He has a 1 minute and 8 second gap to his championship rival. I mean, as you say, this is Nick's race to lose if he doesn't win the championship. Then it's Nick losing. It's not Jensen winning the championship. it is Nick losing the championship at this point.
Exactly, but it's never over until the checkered flag falls, so we'll be looking out for what happens in the last 15 minutes of this season.
It's always been interesting, the last 15 minutes, pretty much.
Always,
Usually because we had rain, but this time it's not going to be raining, so...
It seems to be staying dry for... I think it's the second time, actually, with Bathurst. Those were the only 2 dry races, I think.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Bathurst stayed dry throughout the whole race. And it seems like Zolder is going to follow that
34.6 by Nick van Gelder. That's a new fastest lap of the race.
Oh dear. Yeah, he's going to take all 11 points here today, it seems like.
And he's not holding back, he keeps on pushing it.
Yeah. Just for context for anyone, the second fastest lap is Jensen Randall. It's 8/10 slower. 8/10 slower.
That just shows the dominance that Nick van Gelder has been showing today. The gaps don't show it at the moment between himself and his teammate, but you always have to remember he basically made an extra pit stop with that drive-through penalty early on.
Yeah, exactly. And look at the gap right now. It's almost 5 seconds, meaning that he's looking like he's going to take the victory.
And by a margin. Like, we still have 30 minutes to go. If he keeps up this pace, he'll be winning by like 15 seconds, so...
Yeah, exactly.
Impressive pace by Van Gelder. This has been the best I've seen him all season long.
He's been super fast. Apart from that like last lap charge at Indianapolis, this is definitely his best drive. Like, hands down. The fuel situation is maybe a little bit interesting, could be interesting, maybe. Depending on how much fuel the Audi uses per lap. He has 39 liters.
Yeah, that should be plenty. I don't think he's gonna run out. Max Mulder, who just ran wide on the exit of the final corner, definitely has more. So he's definitely running a heavier car, and he just saw Mulder slowing down a bit, so he probably got a slowdown penalty from exceeding track limits on the exit.
Yeah. I mean, Nick has got this in the back at the moment. And, yeah.
33 have dropped.
Ooh,
it's down to 33.8 by Nick van Gelder.
Isn't that the same? Oh, look at
Jensen
this.
Randall.
Look at he coming up to. That's Jensen Randall.
Jensen Randall had an off. He has got front end damage and lost about 20 seconds on the last lap.
Oh.
This lap, actually.
Look at this. He's just getting lapped now.
What a picture. Nick van Gelder lapping his championship rival, Jensen Randall.
Wow. And yeah, the fastest lap, well, that's a qualifying lap.
It is.
Pretty much. That is a qualifying lap.
And Randall might have to come into the pits. I mean, that BMW looks very banged up. He definitely had an off this lap.
Yeah. Yeah, because he wasn't that close to being lapped the previous lap.
No, he was about 1 minute and 1 second behind Nick van Gelder, and now it's up to 1 minute 36 seconds. He stays out though.
He kind of has to, as well. Because look at the gap to Rhys. It's not that massive, actually.
With repairs being done, his podium chances could go away. So he's staying out in hopes...
Because look at how much that BMW is wobbling.
Yeah, he's wobbling. He definitely got some suspension damage, which is painful on this game.
So I think we should keep a close eye on that gap to Rhys March behind, actually.
Yeah, it's currently 1 minute and 10 seconds.
It's coming down, I think, at the moment. Oh yeah, it's coming down big time. What is it? No, it's staying about the same, actually.
Jensen Randall's last lap was a 51, and Rhys March's last lap was a 47, so that was about 4 seconds. But
we have to take it into account that Jensen did spin on that lap. We have to take the lap where he has damage and has a clean lap as well.
Yeah, but Rhys March, I think he also had an off, because 47s, that's not what he's been running previously.
No. But look at those tires. I mean, those tires are stone cold on that BMW, no doubt. And it's the front right. Oh, yeah. That is not a good combination if that car is pulling to the right as well. Then the right side is getting cold. That is... Oh.
Nick van Gelder has built up the gap to his Audi teammate to 12.5 seconds.
Yeah, this is his race to lose at the moment. The only thing he can do now that would pretty much throw the championship away from him would be to crash out. That is the only thing that could stop him right now.
And
oh, Jensen has spun. Oh dear.
And here it is, yeah. There's the suspension damage. And he gets out of the way for Max Mulder.
Where's Rhys? He is still... He's not close at the moment.
Well, this rate,
closer.
I expect Rhys March to get very close to Jensen Brandt within the last laps of this race. We are under 10 minutes to go.
And if Jensen keeps making mistakes like that, well, it's not even going to be a podium. He has 30 liters of fuel. How much does Nick have? He has 32, so... And Max is incredibly... He has 41. Don't know what he needs that much for.
I think he took too much fuel there on the pit stop. He might have made a strategic mistake.
He might have overcut himself.
Yeah.
Much due to that. But yeah, look at... I mean, Jensen Randall at 1:39.6 and Rhys March's last lap time was 1:35. So, as you said, he did have an off, probably.
We're currently on board with Jensen Randall, and he is struggling a lot in the straight lines, trying to keep his car straight.
I would imagine if he takes a curb too aggressively.
Oh, look at this in the braking zone.
BMW is going to spin. That BMW is going to spin if he takes the curbs too aggressively.
Yeah.
If he hits one of the chicane curbs, he's going to spin. He's not going to have any chance of catching it.
Look at this. Van Gelder has finally slowed down his pace. Back to normality, 38.2 last lap.
He's realized that he's won this championship.
Yeah, no need to push it.
And won the race as well. Well, the turn 1 seems like it's the big problem for Jensen with this damage. Let's see if it's a problem as well this time. Nah, takes it relatively. Oh, but look at the lap time. It's a 1:30, 1:53.
Yeah.
That is miserable, miserable.
Let's see. Rhys March is on his run to the final corner now.
Yeah, he only has 7 minutes left to do it though. So, I mean, yeah, that's a nice run through that chicane.
And Van Peeten has just taken his Ferrari into the gravel trap in the final corner.
We saw that in the background. At 37, well, it's still miles faster than Jensen Randall.
I think at this rate he would catch up to Randall.
Yeah, but we have to remember that Jensen actually spun in the previous lap. So
true, yeah.
That 53 means that he had to dig the car out of a gravel trap.
Last lap, Rhys March, fastest car on track.
Ooh, interesting. He's probably also seeing what we're seeing, that, well, Jensen is slow at the moment.
Yeah.
I mean, Jensen does not have any temperature into the right side of his car. Those tires are stone cold. That could also be the problem that he has with traction. Maybe. Ooh, he's pushing though. He's pushing. I've got to give him that. He's pushing the chicanes. Even though, but at the moment, it's only half a minute. Wow. Last lap from Jensen was a 1:40, and that was without a spin. Ooh. Interesting.
That's been his best lap so far with the damage.
Yeah. Well, I would imagine he's pushing, but that comes with a risk of, well, spinning as well.
Yeah, the gap between himself and Rhys March is 30 seconds at the moment.
Yeah. 1:49 at the moment. It's 30 seconds, I should say, yeah. What, has Rhys made a mistake or something, maybe? What's the lap? No, it's actually, well, it's actually
37, yeah.
It's actually faster than his previous lap, so...
Oh, and now there's a spin.
from
He was pushing too hard. Rhys March
Yeah.
just spun his car in turn 1. Just
And
lost
it
grip
seems
there.
like- Seems like it went all the way into the barrier, so that might
He's-
have saved Jensen's podium.
But no offense to Rhys March. He saw the podium there and he pushed it very
Yeah.
hard, so nothing.
Definitely.
Not a mistake by himself to push his car there at the end of the race. It's
No,
still
no,
not
that-
over, possibly.
No, he still needs to keep the pressure on Jensen, but I think Jensen knows at this point that regardless of how slow he's going, I mean, he can close. Well, what is it now? It's 36 seconds, isn't it? Something like.
Yeah. So under 5 minutes to go here in the final race of the season, the 1.2 hours of Zolder. Nick van Gelder, championship leader, leading this race. Only few laps away to take the checkered flag and win this race and win the championship, ahead of his teammate Max Mulder, who is going to take his second podium, I believe.
Yeah, I believe so. He took his first podium in at Indianapolis. I think.
Yeah.
A really good drive from Max as well. In that
Yeah, it's been
race.
very impressive. He joined midway through the season and his pace has been solid and he's not making any mistakes, so...
He's been very clean as well, so that's a good thing.
Jensen Button misses the chicane and takes his BMW for a spin.
Oh no!
So,
oh, no.
now Rhys
Is
March.
this- He's just coming across the line now, Rhys. So that is the gap. It is. Where's Jensen? There he is. He's coming through the turn. What is it? He's coming down to turn 6, I think it is.
Yeah, the triple chicane.
Yeah. He needs to be really careful right now, because the gap is only. Oh, it's only 27 seconds.
Yeah, it's definitely calmed down again.
He's putting himself under a lot of pressure. 26 seconds right now. 27. Well, staying put. Can't afford any more spins. What?
But nice to see that we're only going to end this race with only one retirement, which unfortunately was you earlier on with the engine failure. But apart from that, everybody has stayed in the race. No disconnects, no technical failures. That's what you want to see.
It's absolutely brilliant that these things happen. Like, if we think back to the start of the season, like, anyone could disconnect at any point, pretty much.
True, yeah.
It's stabilized, and that's good. There might be something. Nah, that was just me. 26 seconds at the moment.
It's not closing down fast enough, and yeah, if Jensen doesn't make another mistake, this should be a podium for him.
Yeah. But that first chicane is troublesome if you have damage.
As we saw in the last lap when he bounced over the curb and spun.
And he's trying to take quite a lot of speed into that chicane as well.
And this is going to be interesting. Nick van Gelder is crossing the line now with 1 minute and 40 seconds to go.
Is he going to slow down to...
He might slow down a few seconds so to make this the final lap of the race.
Depends on what he's doing, but regardless, it is either the final or the penultimate lap, this one.
Will be interesting to see. I mean, Nick van Gelder is one of these drivers that push for every single lap, and he probably doesn't want to give up 5 seconds of his gap. So,
No.
but yeah, it will be interesting to see what van Gelder decides to do.
But I don't think he would mind finishing this race 1.5 minutes earlier. That means just 1.5 minutes less where he has the possibility of making a mistake.
You always got the risk of disconnecting, so
That is the
get
thing.
that risk
If
out of
he
the way.
If he takes another lap and he disconnects, that is championship over for him.
He would be kicking himself.
Absolutely.
Though, actually, he's a lap ahead of Jensen Button, so...
Yeah, that's true. But hopefully that doesn't happen.
Exactly, yeah.
Half a minute to go, so...
Don't want to put the commentator's curse on Van Gelder.
Nope. We've done that. That has been done so many times over the course of this SRL season, both in LMP2, Formula 1 and GT3. So, But 10 seconds coming out of the final corner. Is he going to slow down?
No.
No, he isn't. So
I expected that from Van Gelder.
so we're going to be stuck here for another lap. So this is the final lap.
Final lap of the season.
Absolutely. He's going to go for fastest lap on this lap. That would be cheeky. Just
Sebastian Vettel-like.
Just to rub salt into everyone's wounds. It's like, yeah, you think you're fast? Yeah, I can just go faster.
So, the final lap of the SRL League URL International GT3 Championship. What a season it has been. We had 5 amazing races. If you want to check them out, you can just find them on our channel. This is gonna be the second win of the season for Nick van Gelder, the only the only driver on the grid with multiple wins this season. We've seen some great competition, great finishes, as for example at Indianapolis when Van Gelder had that amazing fight against Jan Staal in the final lap. So Nick van Gelder making his way through Sector 2. And he's going to be super excited. It's going to be his second SRL League Championship. His first on Project Cars 2.
He's going to be looking forward to this.
Exactly. We know how much this means to him. How much effort he's put into this, especially practicing. And Nick van Gelder on the run, the final time. Braking for the final corner. Left. And right.
Right.
To the line.
Finish straight, flashing the lights.
Nick van Gelder. Nick van Gelder is going to win the 1.2 hours of Zolder, and crashing over the line he comes as a new SRL League URL GT3 champion.
There we go.
What a job.
That was brilliant.
And what a dominant win. Wow. Impressive.
Yeah.
We got Max Mulder, his teammate, coming through the final corner. He's going to make it an Audi 1-2, the first time we've seen this in this season.
Yeah.
And Max Mulder takes his second consecutive podium.
Brilliant stuff from him as well. Where is Nick? Well, he's in turn 1 doing donuts, or trying to do something that is closely resembling a donut. I don't know if he has traction control on or what is happening.
Nah, he definitely has it off, but...
There we go. Jensen across the line, side by side with the Yannick.
Yeah, the defeated driver here today. He's shown some great pace, but unfortunately his inconsistency came back to bite him. But
yeah,
still second in championship. Of course, a racing driver always wants to be first, but that's something to build on for next season. And there's always next season, so
there's always a next season, and I would expect that he's going to be one of the title contenders in, well, pretty much all 3. And what is Rhys doing now? He's doing donuts. He's not crossed the line, but who cares? Guess.
Imagine him getting disqualified.
Finishing behind Yannick, yeah. Nah, he's going to come across the line and he's going to, well, conclude a pretty decent, I would say, Season 1 of GT3 racing.
So it's going to be Nick van Gelder who wins the second race of the season and the championship, most importantly. Behind him it's Max Mulder. And in third place, finishing up the podium, is Jansen Reynolds. So I'm going to hurry up and get our newly crowned SRL League GT3 champion Nick van Gelder up in the booth so we can talk to him.
But yeah, a really dominant victory from Nick there. Absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, alongside with
did that.
With your win at Bathurst, probably the most dominant showing of the season.
Well, yeah, I guess. I don't know.
So just hold tight for a minute and we're going to have our champion up in the booth. Probably celebrating at the moment.
Yeah, quite possibly. Well, it's been fun. I'm gonna have to leave you to do the interview yourself, unfortunately, but yeah, thanks for having me.
Sure. Yeah, it's been a pleasure.
So, well, I'll see you guys. Bye bye.
See ya. And there he is. Our newly crowned SRL GT3 champion, Nick van Gelder. Wow. Your second SRL Championship, your first on Project Cars 2. It's in what a dominant fashion you wrecked this up today. How do you feel?
Oh man, yeah, I feel great. Well, I feel pretty knackered because it's so warm, but it's just mentally I feel great because it's just such a relief to finally have it in the bag. And yeah, the race might have seemed pretty straightforward, and it might have been a bit boring for the neutral spectator, but it was pretty tough because it's 47 laps with like I think it's about nearly 40 degrees as well in my room, but I think for probably everyone else. And yeah, the race was pretty intense at times because well it started very well with pole position. I did a pretty good lap and I was really happy to secure the pole position. And then in the formation lap, I made a pretty big mistake. I accidentally sped on the formation lap and I got a 5-second penalty. And then, at the actual race start, I accidentally sped again and I got a drive-through penalty. And I think it's because this is the first time I've started from pole in a Project Cars race, and I just wasn't sure about the start procedures. But I thought it was a bit similar to like a safety car restart, so I just went as soon as the lights were on. But yeah, I was too quick apparently, so I got a drive-through. And at that point, I was just kicking myself. I was like, have I just thrown this away before it even began? And I was like, okay, I'm just gonna try and push as much as I can to build out a bit of a gap. And I wasn't sure how long I was able to go before I had to serve the penalty, so actually I was asking around like how far I could go, and some other people were saying that you can take it pretty far. But I was just really fearing that I would I mean, I'm not really familiar with the drive-through penalty on this game, so I was like, maybe I'm gonna get disqualified. So every time I crossed the line, it was a little bit scary to, because I still had that drive-through popping up on my screen. So in the end, I think I had about a 20-second lead over Jensen. I think it was initially like 10 seconds, but he made a mistake, so it was then up to 20 seconds. I was like, okay, I'm just gonna take the drive-through now because we are probably gonna be close when I come out. And it was pretty close because I rejoined in P3, I think, just behind Jensen. So I was like, okay, it's not too bad. I still have I'm still in touch with Jensen. It was only like a second or two, so I was like, okay, the race. I'm now finally I've got rid of the drive-through penalty, and I can now just do the race properly without having to worry about that. So I got past Jensen. He ran a little bit wide in turn 1. I got past, and then I tried to pull away because I also had that 5-second penalty. And I think me and Jensen were pretty similar on pace, so I couldn't really shake him off, but then Jensen made another mistake and he spun, and that gave me an advantage. And from that point onwards, Max was leading by about 20 seconds, and I was just like, because I had a big gap to Jensen at that point, I was just pushing at my 100% for the rest of the race to try and close that gap. And it was actually working. I was slowly closing down the gap by a couple tenths a lap. And I think I also had the fastest lap this race, so that's...
by a mile.
Okay, yeah, I did a 33. I'm not sure what the others did, but the pace was really good at the end, and I was in a really nice rhythm. And then I think I closed the gap to about 5 seconds, and then Max pitted. And I wasn't sure when he was going to pit, but I wanted to do an undercut on him, but that didn't work because he pitted earlier than me, so I decided to stay out to try an overcut. And that actually somehow worked. I'm not sure if it had damage to repair or something, but I didn't repair my engine damage, and I barely refueled, so that maybe made my stop a bit quicker, but I rejoined in the lead. And then I was like, okay, I've still got this 5-second penalty, so at that point I was just like, I'm just gonna push at my 100% again to try and bridge that gap. And it actually worked. I was luckily a bit quicker than him, and I just, pulled away by like half a second per lap, I think. And the gap got out to about 15-20 seconds. I was sometimes picking up some corner cutting penalties because I was really pushing. But yeah, it didn't matter because I had a pretty big gap anyway. And I was just, the only thing that I was scared for was that I was either gonna crash or that I was gonna disconnect or something like that. I couldn't really relax. I was like, you can't really relax until you've crossed the line, really. Even when you've got a big gap, because you never know with this game. And actually, pretty close to the end, I got another penalty for coming, and it actually showed up on screen first warning. And I've never seen that before. I thought maybe it's because I picked up a drive-through and multiple time penalties, so maybe I was nearing a disqualification, but I was pretty scared at that point. But luckily I managed to hold on. And then actually I crossed the line with like 5 seconds to go. I was actually considering just slowing down and waiting for the timer to run out and finish, but I was like, yeah, I'm just gonna do it for one more lap. Surely nothing can go wrong. And yeah, so I did, and finally crossed the line after 47 laps. And it's great, man. It really, I really wanted to win it, and it's just so nice to actually win it, and pretty nice to add to the collection as well. Now that I've won an F1 and the GT3 Championship.
Yeah, it's great. You can just hear the passion in your voice, and yeah, man, it's been a pleasure to have you up here, and massive congratulations to your well-deserved championship with 2 wins as well this season. And yeah, it's been great, and thanks for coming up here. So this has been the SRL League URL GT3 International Championship with myself, Sandro, up in the booth. We'll have a break here with SRL League Racing for the next month. We'll return at the beginning of September with SRL League F1 competition, F1 2020 with Season 6. Check out links in the description for our Instagram account, our Patreon page to support us, and our website to stay updated with the SRL League, especially in the upcoming weeks. Leave a like if you enjoyed this video, subscribe to the channel to see more SRL League content, and yeah, I've been Sandro, and I'll see you in a month.